Just hearing the word income tax search or tax raid creates fear. People believe anyone can be raided, officers can enter anytime, everything will be seized, life will be ruined overnight. Most of these are myths. Hello everyone, welcome back to Tax Talks by TNC Sridhar. So today let's understand the facts, not fear. How an income tax search happens step by step. Explained simply. This episode is only about awareness, not panic. What is an income tax raid or income tax search? An income tax search is a legal action conducted by the income tax department. It is not random, it is not routine. It is done only when specific legal conditions are satisfied. A search is conducted to find undisclosed incomes, identify unaccounted assets, collect evidences of tax evasion. It is governed strictly by law and procedure. When can a search be initiated? A search cannot happen just because you earned more, you buy properties, or someone complains. A search happens only when the department has credible information, evidences of undisclosed income or assets, a reason to believe tax evasion exists. This reason to believe must be recorded and approved by the senior officers. This is also called as a satisfaction note. So the approval from senior authorities before search, the proposal is examined by the senior officers. In fact, the entire proposal has to go through 4 levels of officers. The first, you may call him as an initiating officer, who first examines the information received or whatever has been suo motu examined, where there is a reason to believe that if a later processes like issue of summons, if issued, the assessee may not come out with the real facts before them, or a notice has been issued but that person has not responded for obvious reasons, or a later processes like surveys will not yield the discovery of undisclosed incomes. When such reasons are recorded, then that satisfaction note is first issued to the unit head, who is normally to the post of joint director or additional director. Once that is cleared, then it goes to a still higher level officer of the commissioner rank, like director of income tax, who will again examine that thing. And if he has got any still queries to be fulfilled, he may refer back and to do further investigation on this matter, further inquiries on this matter, and then come up with a foolproof satisfaction note. Then the matter is further taken to the still higher authority, like Director General, who is to the rank of Chief Commissioner. And this Director General will also examine and will then give an approval. Once he gives the approval, then only the further processes of issue of warrant and all will take place. So, when a written approval is mandatory, no individual officer can act alone. If there is no approval, no search can be conducted. This is one of the biggest safeguard for the taxpayer. So then coming to the search warrant. Warrant is an authorization to search a premises where evidences of undisclosed income of a person are believed to have been kept. So the basic ingredients of the warrants are name of the person in whose case the proceedings are initiated. Then comes name of the person whose premises is to be searched and address of the premises to be searched. The person in whose case warrant is issued could be a different person from a person whose premises is searched, because there is a reason to believe that the evidences of undisclosed income of A is kept in the premises of B. The A can be owner and the B could be his employee or some relative or some other person. In that case, evidences of undisclosed income of the person in whose case warrant is issued can only be acted upon. Now, if during the course of search, some undisclosed income or assets are discovered in respect of the person whose premises is searched, a separate warrant will be necessary to be issued in that case. For example, if the warrant is issued in the case of A to search the premises of B. Now, in the premises of B, whatever items found to relate to A, it can be seized or whatever it can be done. But if something relating to B is found, in that case, those things cannot be seized in the warrant because warrant is in respect of A. So, in that case, technically, a separate warrant is necessary to be issued in case of B, and then the seizure can be effected. If the assets seized are later on found to belong to some other person, now we are coming to a situation where not during the course of search, but during the course of search the asset is seized as presumably to belonging to A. But later on it is found that it doesn't belong to A, it belongs to C. Then in that case, the separate proceedings are initiated by the concerned officers. But again, they also have to record a satisfaction note. A very important aspect in this matter is that if the undisclosed income relate to more than 1 year, at the time of initiating the assessment proceedings, the assessing officer has to record reasons for each year separately and not a combined satisfaction note. That is a separate part. Now we are dealing with the search aspects. A search team carries a valid search warrant. Name and address of the persons who is being searched, date and authority details. The taxpayers have the right to verify the warrant. Without warrant, no search is legal. The taxpayer is also authorized to verify the veracity of the persons who are coming to search. You can always ask for their identity card. You can always examine that. You can always cross-check it. So that it does not happen that some unauthorized persons carry some fake warrant and conduct search on you. That can't happen. So these aspects will have to be kept in mind. And another important aspect is that before the commencement of the search, when the team enters the premises, the team has to offer themselves for search so that there cannot be an allegation subsequently that they have come and planted something in your place. So the team also has to offer itself for search. And once you either accept it and search them or you decline, everything is recorded in the Panchanama. If you decline, you cannot subsequently take a stand that these were not mine, they were come and planted. You cannot take that stand. So a person who is searched has got the power to even search the search party which is coming. If they are bringing any other thing along with me, he can satisfy himself that they have not brought any incriminating to plant in their house. This is very important power that is given to the person who is searched. Okay. Now, the officer during the search enters during the reasonable hours. This reasonable hours is very relative. Because if the business itself is carried on during odd hours, then they can enter in the odd hours because that is the reasonable time. Suppose the premises opens at night 11 o'clock and closes at 4 o'clock. They can definitely come. If you take a fish market business starts at 1 o'clock and closes at 4 o'clock. That's the reasonable time for that. So, that timing is very relative, which has to be seen, that thing. Then, independent witnesses have to be present. Because the Panchanama, the word Panchanama is a misnomer. Panchanama means 5 people. Panchasya nama Panchanama. Why 5? Because if someone vouches, this happened in my presence, that one person may sway this way and that way. So when there are 2 persons, there is a possibility of someone may say yes, someone may say no. But when three persons are there, the majority will prevail. But there again, what happens? If someone who is contradicting the other two, he can be mentally pressurized by two because he becomes alone. To avoid this, the concept of five people have been brought in. Because when you come to majority, it is three. And there are two people who can be holding the other view. And two is not two. It is, in Hindi they say, ek aur ek 11 hota hai. 1 and 1 becomes 11. So they get the strength of 11 to withstand any pressure of the three. So this is the concept of Panchanama. But what happened over a period of time, the word Panchanama has remained, but it is actually a Sakshi Nama, a witness who are mentioning these things. And there are two witnesses to substantiate each other over the vouching the incidences that has taken place. So they should be independent witness. Independent witness means they are not related to the search party, they are not related to the assessee also. They are independent. They can be anybody, a good neighbor can be there, an officer from other government departments can be there, or it can be any person who can be a witness. And the responsibility of the witness is only to see the proceeding that is going on. At the end of the day, when the search gets concluded, when this Panchanama is drawn, they sign having witnessed the proceedings. In that Panchanama, there are provisions which speak about what are the items that has been, who came, with what warrants they showed, who was present, and all those things. Then it talks about items which are found but not seized. Sometimes items which have been found and seized, and whether any untoward incidents has happened, whether any person other than the person searched were present in the premises. All these details are mentioned over there, and they sign as having present, witness this proceeding. Their job ends. Once the search party is out, they are also out of the picture. That's all. In this process, the authorized officers may check books of accounts, verify lockers, cupboards, examine digital records. They can verify the stock and relate it with the books of accounts and all. But they cannot use force. They cannot misbehave. The sentiments of the searched party is very important. If there is a system that the people leave their slippers outside their house, the officer cannot walk with their shoes inside the house because that will hurt the sentiment of the people. That is very important. And if there is a system in the house, like the ladies don't appear in public or they are pardashin, then they should be given time to withdraw from public, provided they don't act or do something which will happen in a manner detrimental to the purpose for which the search is being taken place. They have to only withdraw and keep quiet and not play with the assets which are undisclosed. If they do that, then the search party has got the power to go inside and then examine these things also. They cannot seize explained assets. That is, whatever asset disclosed to the department cannot be seized. There is something called presumptive explanation. For example, the jewelry. The jewelry of a married woman to the extent of 500 grams is considered to be explained, deemed explained. For the married man, it is 100 grams. And for unmarried girls, it is 250 grams. And for unmarried male, it is 50 grams. So this much amount of jewelry is deemed to have been explained. Okay, this cannot be seized. Now we come to what can be seized and what cannot be seized. The unaccounted cash can be seized, unaccounted jewelry, and incriminating documents. That is, those documents which have some mention of undisclosed income. And what cannot be seized is explained assets, regular books of accounts, and stock in trade. Not everything seen is seized. Only what is legally justifiable is seized. Now to recap about Panchanama. Panchanama and documentation. At end of the search, the Panchanama is prepared. Details of seized items are recorded. And most importantly, the copy is given to the taxpayer. the transparency is legally required. So, unless the copy of Panchanama is provided and the annexures mentioning what has been seized, what has been found and seized, etc., are not provided, the search is not considered to be complete. You are entitled to ask for a copy of Panchanama. Now, post search procedure. After the search, notices are issued for filing the return. That is, once the search is conducted by the investigation directorate. The investigation directorate examine the seized document and see what is explained, what is not explained. Then they prepare one report called as appraisal report. This appraisal report is sent to the assessing officer who is having the jurisdiction. Now, if there are more than one assessing officer, for convenience purposes, for coordinated investigation, they can be brought under one assessing officer by centralizing, and that officer will issue the notice for filing of the returns. Then, on the basis of examination of the submissions made, the assessment can be conducted for a specific number of years. Now, taxpayer gets opportunity to explain. So, initially at the time of search, the assessee might not be in a position to bring in all the evidences or the confirmation from various people. So, prima facie that any item that is found to be undisclosed might be seized. And even during the course of investigation, it is possible that the assessee might not have been able to produce all the evidences. But what is required is at the time of assessment, when he files the details, those details have to be considered by the assessing officer to finalize and determine whether it is undisclosed income or not. In the next episode, we are going to take you inside one of the most serious actions under the income tax law. The search process. We will dive into how statements are recorded during a search. What declaration or admissions of undisclosed income really mean. What happens after the search, the subsequent proceedings, and most importantly, the legal and financial consequences. Many people have heard about income tax searches, but very few actually understand what truly happens behind the scene. So, if you want to stay informed and avoid costly mistakes, don't miss the next episode of Tax Talks by TNC Sridhar. See you next Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Until then, stay aware and stay tax smart.